One of my all-time favourite artists is Vincent van Gogh. This is his story, along with many of his paintings and drawings. My name's Jane, and I'm an ESOL teacher. I've been teaching English to adults for many years, and I have a passion for art and art history. So if you're interested in art and would like to learn new vocabulary and improve your grammar and pronunciation, then this video, along with the accompanying exercises on my website, will help. But I must apologise to Dutch and French speakers for my pronunciation of the names. Anyway, enjoy the video and don't forget to visit my website at the end. Vincent van Gogh was born on the 30th of March 1853 in Brabant in the Netherlands. He was the first of 6 surviving children. His mother Anna was a nature lover and amateur artist who drew plants and flowers. His father, Theodorus, was a pastor of the Dutch Reformed Church. Vincent was very close to his brother Theo, who was 4 years younger than him. It was Theo who supported Vincent financially throughout all the difficult years when Vincent was struggling to make it as an artist. Vincent and Theo wrote hundreds of letters to each other over the years, and these have given us a lot of information about Vincent's life. These are some of Vincent's early drawings. In 1869, when Vincent was 16, he went to work for Goupil et Compagnie, a French firm of art dealers. His uncle Vincent was a partner in the firm. He was employed by them for the next 7 years, first in The Hague and later in London and Paris. These are drawings Vincent made in London. He drew a lot and educated himself in art history. He became proficient in the English and French languages and learnt about English and French literature. Vincent started off well working in The Hague, but by the time he got to London, he'd become disillusioned with the art business and started arguing with the customers about art. Once he got to Paris, he became much more interested in religion and was finally dismissed from Goupil in March 1876. From 1876 to 1880, Vincent taught at English boarding schools, worked in a Dutch bookshop, and tried to become a minister. However, he failed his theological exams and moved to the Borinage region in Belgium, where he worked as a lay minister to oppressed coal mine workers. Finally, in August 1880, at Theo's suggestion, Vincent decided to become an artist. He had a natural gift for drawing, and in November 1881, he moved to The Hague to study. This is where he created his first paintings. Before he arrived in The Hague, Vincent had met a recently widowed cousin, Cornelia K. Vostricker, at his parents' house, the parsonage in the town of Etten. She was 7 years older than him. He fell in love with her, but she rejected him. This seems to have brought on his first serious bout of depression. Whilst in The Hague, in January 1882, Vincent met Clasina Maria Seen Hornick. She was an artist's model and a prostitute, had a small child, and was pregnant with a second. They moved in together, and Scene gave up prostitution for a while. However, this could not last, as they were all dependent on Theo's financial support, which was not enough. Here are some of Vincent's pictures from this time. Their relationship ended when Vincent left The Hague in September 1883. He moved back to his parents' home in December. They had recently moved to a town called Nuenen. Vincent's relationship with his father was tense, and he described his father as narrow-minded in a letter to his brother Theo, who was now working for Goupil in Paris. While in Nuenen, Vincent painted local peasants and weavers. One of his most famous paintings from this time is The Potato Eaters. In March 1885, Vincent's father died of a stroke. In November, Vincent moved to Antwerp, and it was here that he began to collect Japanese prints, which were to have a strong influence on his art. In 1886, he joined his brother Theo in Paris. Theo was now a director of a small art gallery in Montmartre. In June, they moved to Rue Le Pic, on top of the hill, with a panoramic view of the city, and with 3 remaining windmills, which reminded the brothers of their native Holland. Vincent continued to study art and met many other artists. The 2 years he spent in Paris were transformational. He learned about the latest trends in French art and attended the 8th and final Impressionist exhibition held in May to June 1886. The exhibition included work by Edgar Degas, Berthe Morisot, Mary Cassatt, Paul Gauguin, and Georges Seurat. Vincent visited the Montmartre art supply shop and picture gallery of Julien Père Tanguy. He greatly admired Tanguy, who was a political radical and a supporter of avant-garde artists. When Vincent painted his portrait, he depicted him against a background of Japanese prints. Another spot in Montmartre, frequented by artists, was the Café du Tambourin. Vincent painted a portrait of the owner, Agostina Segatori, seated in the cafe drinking beer, at a time when the Japanese print collection of Vincent and Theo was displayed on the cafe's walls. In 1888, after 2 years in Paris, Vincent was feeling stressed and went to live in Arles in the south of France, where he stayed for 15 months. He lived for a while at the Café de la Gare, which was run by Joseph Genoux and his wife Marie. However, he dreamt of setting up an artist's colony at the Yellow House. On the 30th of May, he left the town for 5 days and stayed in the coastal fishing village of Sainte-Marie de la Mer. Here he drew and painted the beach, the sea, and the town. This was his first view of the Mediterranean. June was harvest time, and Vincent headed to La Crau, where he painted the wheat fields. He also painted The Sower, a landscape of a setting sun over a wheat field, incorporating a figure inspired by the artist Jean-François Millet. Back in Arles, Vincent had difficulty persuading peasants to model for him. Unexpectedly, a Zouave, a soldier indigenous to North Africa, turned up at his studio. Fortunately, he was happy to pose in the uniform of his French army regiment. The soldier also liked drawing, and he and Vincent went to the countryside to sketch together. Once the weather became too hot, Vincent worked inside, painting still lifes, for example, oleanders. He also painted his mother at this time. He painted sunflowers with the purpose of decorating the yellow house. In early September, while he was living at the Café de la Gare, Vincent painted the night cafe. The cafe remained open all night with customers from the margins of society. He wrote to his brother Theo, "It was what they call here a night cafe. Night prowlers can find a refuge here if they are unable to pay for a bed or if they are too drunk to be allowed anywhere. In my picture, I have tried to express the idea that the cafe is a place where one can ruin oneself, go mad, or commit crimes." At around the same time, Vincent painted Café Terrace at Night, where he first painted the night sky of Provence. Later, he painted Starry Night over the Rhone, which continued the theme. In mid-September, Uncle Vincent died, and Theo was able to provide money for Vincent to furnish the yellow house. Vincent inherited nothing, as Uncle Vincent disapproved of the penniless artist. Vincent hoped that Gauguin would join him and set up a guest room for his friend. He painted Bedroom in Arles and sent a sketch and description to Gauguin. Gauguin arrived in Arles on the 23rd of October. Vincent painted Van Gogh's chair and Gauguin's chair during his stay. Vincent made a series of portraits of the Roulin family: Joseph Roulin, his wife Augustine, their sons Camille and Armand, and their infant daughter Marcel. This was a stressful time for Vincent, and he became more manic during December. He and Gauguin quarrelled, and Gauguin wrote in his memoir that Vincent had thrown a glass at his head. Vincent used to drink heavily. Things came to a head on the evening of the 23rd of December, when, it seems, Vincent had gone to attack Gauguin, but stopped and ran away. Gauguin spent the night in a local hotel. When he returned to the Yellow House the next morning, he was met by the police, who escorted him to Vincent's bedroom. Vincent appeared lifeless. Gauguin asked the policeman to tell Vincent that he had left for Paris. The previous evening, Vincent had cut off part of his ear, and at 11:30 p.m. had gone to the local brothel, asked for Rachel, and given her his ear, saying, "Guard this object carefully." Vincent was admitted to the Hôtel Dieu, the hospital in Arles, under the care of Dr. Félix Rey. he returned to the Yellow House on the 7th of January 1889. Vincent began to paint again, including self-portrait with bandaged ear. He continued as an outpatient of the Arles Hospital and was visited in the Yellow House by Dr. Felix Ray and other doctors who came to look at his pictures. Vincent suffered another delusional attack in February and went back to hospital. On the 8th of May, he left Arles for Saint-Rémy-de-Provence, where he was admitted as a voluntary patient at the Saint-Paul de Mosole Psychiatric Asylum. Vincent had a bedroom and an adjoining studio with barred windows. He was allowed to paint in the hospital grounds and, when accompanied by a hospital orderly, in the surrounding fields. He was attracted by the hospital garden, where he painted irises. And here are some more of his paintings from this time. In August, he had a further attack, and while he was recovering, he was reluctant to leave the hospital, and so painted Corridor in the Asylum. He continued to suffer many other breakdowns over the following months. On the 31st of January 1890, Theo wrote to Vincent to tell him that he and his wife Jo had had a son whom they would call Vincent. To celebrate the birth, Vincent painted Almond Blossom. Vincent was becoming unhappy with life in Saint-Rémy, and he got to hear about Dr. Paul Gachet, a physician with experience of working with psychiatric patients. Dr. Gachet had a practice in Auvers-sur-Oise, to the northwest of Paris, and he was also an art collector. Vincent travelled to Paris to stay with his brother for a few days, and he met his sister-in-law and nephew for the first time. The walls of Theo's flat were covered with Vincent's pictures. Vincent then travelled to Auvers, where he met Dr. Gachet. Vincent described him to his brother as rather eccentric. Vincent rented an attic room there. He painted Dr. Gachet's portrait, and the doctor liked it so much that Vincent painted another one and gave it to him as a gift. The two got along very well. Vincent painted the stairway at Auvers, which was close to his lodgings. And here are some other paintings from Auvers. On the 6th of July, Vincent went to Paris to see Theo, Jo, and baby Vincent for the last time. Theo and Jo were worried about the baby, who was ill, and Theo was worried about money, as his salary was very low. They quarrelled, and Vincent left in a hurry. He described himself as a burden in a letter to Theo. Vincent painted wheat field with crows, which expressed his feelings of isolation and desperation. His last painting, Tree Roots, was unfinished. On the evening of the 27th of July, 1890, Vincent, who had been painting in the Auvers countryside, shot himself in the chest with a revolver. He managed to walk back to his attic room without telling anyone what had happened. Eventually, he was found by the innkeeper, who called Dr. Gachet and a local doctor. They decided not to remove the bullet, and Dr. Gachet contacted Theo, who arrived the next day. Vincent died at 1:30 in the morning on the 29th of July. He was 37 years old. He was buried in the cemetery in Auvers. Theo died 6 months later. When Vincent died, he had no money because he'd only sold one of his paintings, The Red Vineyard, in his entire life. His sister-in-law, Jo, inherited about 200 of his works and kept the collection while selling a few pieces. The collection passed to her son Vincent when she died in 1925, and he transferred the collection to the Vincent van Gogh Foundation in 1962. In 1973, the Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam opened. During Vincent's short, tortured life, he produced more than 2,000 works of art, nearly 900 of which were oil paintings, and most of these were created within a 10-year period. So many artists have been influenced by his expressive style ever since, and continue to be so. And we can enjoy his amazing works in museums and exhibitions around the world. Here are some of his still lifes to end with.
Según mi caro lo hace más. Disfrutando de todas esas cosas que traen los peseón. Disfrutando de noches de esas que las no se ven, pero no se ven. Pero estarando en gol. Anda viste my way. La voz se otra mía. Mi contarte las cosas que...
I hope you enjoyed the video and learnt something about the life of Vincent van Gogh. Do visit my website, where you'll find the transcript and lots of exercises based on the text. Also, if you enjoyed the video, please like it, please subscribe to my channel and comment below. Hope to see you soon.